Everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Runeterra Day, and I mentioned it on the last video. I was like, hey, I might play Spiders for the next week, and hey, well, we're gonna play Spiders for the next week, as I got blown out by it last week and kind of got a hankering for this deck again. Now, it's really funny because I'm actually arachnophobic, but I absolutely love playing the Spiders deck. It's another sort of super fast, aggressive deck in line with the Treferian aggro deck that I played before, where it just wants to play out a bunch of small units and swing in and do a lot of damage. However, unlike the Treferian aggro deck, which could play a lot of beef sticks that just couldn't block, this deck is significantly better at swarming the field, playing out a bunch of smaller units, and then using a variety of anthem effects to pump them up and get them all big. So even though you played a bunch of 1/1s to start with, when they're swinging in, they're all coming in at like 3 or 4 damage apiece, in a similar fashion to how the Azir Aurelia Blade Dance deck works. Of course, in this deck, you're actually playing units, not just playing spells that let you attack for free, but you know, that's another topic for another day. So let's go ahead and do the card-by-card rundown on what exactly this Spiders deck wants to do. Starting here with Crawling Sensation. Now, Crawling Sensation does a couple of really good things for the deck. It not only allows it to flood the field. If your opponent kills off a Spiderling, you're making 2 more, but it also gives this deck a bit of resiliency, which is another advantage it has over the Noxian aggro deck. In the Treferian deck, if your opponent clears the field, you probably don't have any cards in hand and you're going to lose from there. Crawling Sensation sort of compromises by saying, yeah, your opponent can sort of trade out with a unit or 2, and then you can Crawling Sensation. This also means that if your opponent blocks out in a unit early in the game when you have the Elise thinking they're going to keep you off the Elise flip, you drop a Crawling Sensation, and all of a sudden the Elise is flipping anyways, and your opponent is kind of screwed. At 1 mana, I am very, very happy to play this card, especially given that the Elise champion card is also Crawling Sensation, so really, really powerful in the deck. 3 copies of Hapless Aristocrat. I've talked about him a little bit before in the deep deck. I actually have cut him from that deck since because he doesn't do a lot of things that I want the deep deck to do. But in this deck, he's significantly better because of the fact that he summons a Spiderling upon death. Though he himself is not a spider, he gives me a spider. And it does mean that I can sort of play him as a defensive card because my opponent in the early stages of the game won't want to attack if I have an Aristocrat, because if they attack, I'll block with him and then get my Spiderling and then potentially get my Elise flip. He's also a good target for things like Glimpse Beyond because he replaces himself when he dies, which means Glimpse really doesn't have a cost at that point because I wanted the spider anyways, and I'll take 2 cards on top of that, please and thank you. So kind of a fun card. I could probably cut him at some point to make room for some of the other Spiderlings, but I kind of like what he does for the deck, so I'm going to keep him in. 3 copies of Precious Pet. This is, I think, by far the best aggro card in the game. Precious Pet is a 2/1 with Fearsome, which I think means there is no other 1-cost unit in the game that can block it because of the fact that it's got Fearsome and you have to have 3 or more power to block it. I think there is one card now with the new set, Bloodthirsty Marauder, I believe is big enough to block it, but I think that's the only card that actually can. So Precious Pet can come down on turn 1 and guarantee damage right off the bat. It's very good in that regard. It's also essentially a Spiderling, but comes with an additional point of power, and the Fearsome on top of that is very good. So when it does start getting some additional buffs, your opponent can't chump it, right? Because it's a decently beefy boy and it has Fearsome, so they have to throw a more expensive unit at dealing with the Precious Pet. So incredibly good card. I know it looks weird, it's a 1-cost unit, but really, really solid. 3 copies of Elise here. Elise is the only spider champion in the game. She's not the only champion I'm running in this deck. We'll get to him in a bit. But Elise is a 2/3 with Fearsome, and when she attacks, she summons an attacking Spiderling, so she kind of multiplies the amount of damage that you're able to do. The biggest thing here is you need to have 3 or more other spiders to flip her. That seems pretty simple, but any opponent knows to not let you flip the Elise, because once she flips, she becomes a 4/3 that gives all other spiders Challenger and Fearsome. This means that not only can your Spiderlings grab the bigger units to prevent them from blocking Elise, but it also means that they're all Fearsome, so the smaller units can't even block them. A flipped Elise will end games, especially if you could flip her as early as turn 3 or turn 4. That just is so much of a tempo swing that your opponent will spend the rest of the game playing catch-up and will just kind of lose off the back of that. You all saw what happened to me when I was playing the Sivir LeBlanc deck and an opponent flipped an Elise on me, so absolutely, she is a house, and I don't expect her to live very much after I play her, but if she does, hoo boy, we're going to be in business. 3 copies of Glimpse Beyond. This is just a crazy good card. The biggest thing is that the cost on Glimpse Beyond the mana, the kill an ally to draw 2, isn't really even a cost in Shadow Isles. A lot of times you want a unit to die in order to get some kind of benefit or some kind of value from it. It allows you to kill a unit instead of your opponent killing it in order to just draw cards off that unit's demise. You can block with a unit and then kill it with Glimpse Beyond to prevent your opponent from getting a strike off. There's just so much value in this single card that I feel like, you know, if we're talking about cards I run in every deck that runs that color, right? We had Quicksand for Shurima. This is 100% the card I would run 3 copies of in every single Shadow Isles deck because of how strong it is. So that's why it's here. And I have no shortage of targets for it either, given how many small spiders that I'll play, that I don't really care if they die. I just want cards off of their backs. 3 copies of House Spider. This is a really solid card at 2 mana that summons a Spiderling when it comes down. That means I get a 2/2 and a 1/1 for 2 mana. That's pretty solid all across the board, and it also counts twice for spiders, so if I can play an Elise and then play a House Spider, if I already have a Precious Pet down, that gives me 3 spiders immediately. So you can kind of see how that's a difficult combination to come back from, so really solid card as well. And also it gives me multiple spiders for all of my Anthem effects that we'll be talking about here in a bit. 3 copies of Vile Feast. This is a really good card that I was getting a little salty about last week because of how good it was against the Sivir LeBlanc deck, but it drains 1 from a unit to summon a Spiderling. This not only means that you're healing yourself 1, but you're probably killing a weaker enemy unit and getting a Spiderling off the back of that as well. Now, obviously, if you're playing this in combat, you can't actually go to blocks with that Spiderling because you have to let this resolve first, and your opponent will punch you before then, but it does mean that you can play it. You can play it out in a couple of different situations and either kill a weakened unit or get that Spiderling. Either way, I think it's good removal, and it was a toss-up between this and Black Spear, but I do think I like Vile Feast better because of how much better it is in the early stages of the game. 2 copies of Arachnoid Sentry. It was between this and the Arachnoid Horror, both of which are 3/2s. The Arachnoid Horror is a mana cheaper with Fearsome. This is a mana more expensive that stuns an enemy as it comes down, and I like the flexibility of the stun. It lets you either play defensively by blocking a big enemy threat, or offensively by stunning the big enemy threat as you go to combat so they can't block something like your Elise. So really solid card, and I think it gives me enough flexibility that I'd like to run it over the Horror. 2 copies of Black Spear. I already don't care if my units are dying. I have so many Spiderlings that I don't care if a couple bite the dust. I kind of want them to die at some point in order to play things like Crawling Sensation. So with them already dying, Black Spear is going to be a pretty good card in this deck by just dealing 4 to a unit. This allows me to break through some of the walls that may otherwise stymie this deck. Something like Braum, for example. Black Spear is a pretty good answer because if I lose a unit, I can then punch the Braum for 4 damage, and if Braum took any damage, then he is just going to straight up die unless my opponent has a combat trick. So a solid card, but I kind of like the Vile Feast better because I think it's better earlier on. 3 copies of Frenzied Skitterer. This is an absolute house in this deck by not only giving all of your spider allies +1/+0 for a round, but also debuffing the enemies with -1/-0. This means that your spiders are generally going to be trading up, and your enemies will generally be trading down. It also means that because you have so many fearsome spiders, making enemies slightly weaker means that they have fewer actual blocks, or things at least they can send at Skitterer. If you already have the Elise flip, Skitterer is really making it so your opponent isn't getting any blocks off. Super solid card on both offense and defense, so definitely want to be seeing it in opening hand. A single copy of Fresh Offerings. Now, I don't think this is a good card. I really don't. I just have it in the deck because what's a spider deck without Vile Maw? So if 3 or more allies die this round, you can summon Vile Maw. This makes it sort of a way to replenish after a board wipe comes through. It kills all my spiders. I at least get the Vile Maw off the back of it, who is a 6/6 with Fearsome, and making my opponent wish they just saved mana for some more removal. So I don't think it's good. If I find it, I'll play it, but again, I don't think it does a lot for this deck. It's just a fun card, and I didn't want to play this spider deck without such an iconically thematic card, so it had to stay in. 3 copies of Shrieking Skitterer. You saw me crapping myself when this card came out against me last week, and that's because this card is also a house in the spider deck. This came out in the most recent set. It's a 2/5 for 4, which doesn't look very impressive, but it gives all spider allies +1/+0 when it attacks. Note that that's permanent. That's not till the end of the round. That means you only have to attack with this once, and your whole board is getting pumped up. That makes it extremely scary to deal with, on top of the fact that it's also a fairly beefy unit that I can play defensively if I absolutely need to, so very, very solid on its own. Pulling double duty with the Shrieking Skitterer is the Arachnoid Host, who's a mana more expensive but slightly more beefy on offense, and when he's summoned, he grants other spider allies +2/+0. Note that this means I need the big board as Host comes down. Unlike Spinner, I can play Spinner on an open board and I don't feel too bad about it. Host, I absolutely need a big board before I play it, but if I play Host on a big board, he's giving everyone a permanent +2/+0, which is absolutely backbreaking. He's a big beefy threat on his own. Absolutely does a lot for the deck, and you can kind of see where all these Anthem effects are coming through, only benefiting spiders, so that's essentially the whole point of this deck. We have 2 copies of Brood Awakening here. This is another card that allows me to either flood the board or recover from something like a board wipe by summoning 3 Spiderlings, then giving all spider allies +1/+0. This means that bare minimum, I'm getting 3 2/1s off this card, which is pretty good, but also it means that if I have a larger board than nothing, all of those spiders are going to be getting the pump as well. So it's a very solid card all around, and I would be probably running more copies of it if I cut something like the Fresh Offerings, but like I already mentioned, I want Vile Maw. Finally, Darius is here. The Bad Man, it was in the deck when I originally built it, and I kind of like what he does for it. He's the sort of win condition of the deck if I absolutely can't outswarm my opponent. As long as I can get them low enough, Darius can come down and just end games. We saw him do it when I played the Treferian aggro deck. This is still an aggro deck. As long as I'm able to get my opponent low enough, Darius can do what he does best, which is dunk. So I know he's not a spider, but I had another champion slot, and I kind of feel like he does things I like the deck to do, so he's here now. So anyways, that's the deck, guys. It's a pretty simple deck, and you can build it off of a lot of stuff you get for free when you start playing the game. I think a sort of smaller version of the Spider deck is given to you when you first start, so it's a pretty cheap deck to make as well. There's a lot of more expensive things that I put into it because I've had the wild cards, but if you want to play a very simplistic version of the Spiders deck, it's pretty easy to make as well. So either way, that's enough talking about the game. Let's go ahead and get into game and start beating up some people with Spiders. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're up against Dr. Asian Horse playing a Mono Draven Piltover Noxus deck. This is probably the Piltover Noxian Burn deck that just happened to be playing Draven on the back of it. So it's gonna be a race either way, and I think I will keep the Aristocrats because they're gonna be pretty good in that kind of race situation. As much as I talked about loving fresh offerings, I am gonna mulligan it away here and hope for a Precious Pet or an Elise. I think would be better options. Sentry is gonna be okay. He can do some things on defense for me, so I'm not too mad about that. And we've got a Crawling Sensation as well. That's pretty nice. So see what my opponent wants to come out with here, and they will actually open with the Precious Pet. I don't actually have an answer for it, so we're going to play the Aristocrat, but I'm going to be taking the 2 because I can't block it. So you already see the power of this card. Obviously, I'm not playing it, but my opponent is, so that's pretty nice for them. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to me, and I feel like I don't even want to be that aggressive here. I will swing with the Aristocrat and see what they want to do. They are just going to take the damage, which is fine by me. He's got a Legion Grenadier in order to try and get some more damage, and I think at this point I will go ahead and Vile Feast, which will give me another 1/1, and also remove his Precious Pet. So that's pretty decent for me. It gives me the life as well, so we're tied on life total. So, hey, also, I apparently have a foil Vile Feast. I don't know when I got that, but I am not complaining. So now we can block with the Hapless Aristocrat, just to not take the damage. He's actually going to do kind of our job for us, so I'm going to take some damage off of the skill from the Demolitionist, but then I can go ahead and Vile Feast the Grenadier. I obviously won't gain any life off of this because the Grenadier is going to blow up and do damage to me, but at least I'm still getting a Spiderling for free. The biggest thing here is if he goes to combat, I can block with the Aristocrat. Aristocrat will die, get me a Spider, and then I can pay the 1 mana for Crawling Sensation and get 2 more Spiders, and I'm going to be just straight up off to the races. I don't even really care at this point if the Saboteur is able to block something because I have so many Spiders that I'm kind of out-aggroing this aggro deck. See if he's got a response here. He shouldn't. He's not really in the colors for it, so... And yeah, he's still got something he can play, though, on 1 mana. So there could be a Blade's Edge, which just does 1 damage to anything, which he could use to randomly off a Spider, I guess, but that's not that big of a deal. But I can't think of anything else for 1 mana he really would be thinking of, except maybe... Oh, Saboteur, okay. So he was thinking about playing the Saboteur. I'm surprised he didn't play that before going to combat. I feel like that would have been a better situation. Oh, if only this was a turn later, we would have had the Arachnoid Host. I feel like it's still probably worth it to just go to combat here, get in for as much damage as we possibly can. He's just going to take all of it. He knows he wants to stay as offensive as possible. He may be worried about losing a unit on the back from something like a Black Spear. We'll go ahead and play the Aristocrat out as well. This gives me a free block. Obviously, I'm going to take a bunch of damage off the back of this because all his units are going to do damage to me as they come in, so that's going to kind of hurt, but I almost don't care. Okay, in with the rear guard. This is fine. I think at this point, I'm honestly okay just passing and see what he wants to do. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and swing in probably with everything. I don't think there's any reason for him to hold anything back. And now the biggest thing here is I'm going to try and minimize the damage I take, but also I don't really care too much because I just need to open enough holes for the Arachnoid Host to come down. So we're going to take a ton of damage here. I think this is, what, 6 damage? Yeah, so we're going to lose a bunch. We're going to go down to 10, but we are at least trading with the Saboteur. We're going to keep a Spider because of the Last Breath effect. And here comes Arachnoid Sentry pumping up the board, and we're in business. Assuming, of course, he doesn't have anything that deals 1 damage to everything on my field, but I don't think he's in the colors for that, so I'm pretty sure we're in a good spot. If he comes down with Draven, we do have the Black Spear for it as well. I could also Black Spear the Boom Crew Rookie, depending on what he does with his mana at the end of this turn, because then he's dead, then I'm swinging in with a huge board of aggressive cards, and my opponent's kind of just going to die unless he can pull something out. Yeah, so he's really thinking, because this is a scary situation to be in. But and he's got 6 mana and a Hand of Gas. Okay, he's going to Mystic Shot me. So he thinks he has enough damage to actually kill me off. So I'm going to go ahead and Black Spear the Boom Crew Rookie and see if that makes him rethink his decisions. He's got 2 Mystic Shots. So I'm going to take 4 off this. I'm going to go down to 6, but I don't think there's any card that does 6 damage unless he, like, top decks another damage spell and can live my attack. I have a Brood Awakening as well on the backswing, so I'm just going to combat here and say, hey, do you have it? He is blocking, so I don't think he has it. He's dead to this. Okay, he's going to rummage. He's looking for damage or he's looking for removal. Did he find it? He found something because he changed his block. But he can't actually play it if it's a Get Excited because he doesn't have a card in hand to discard. So he can't play Decimate because he... Yeah, okay. So he's back to blocking the Arachnoid Host because... Yeah, so he's doing his math. He's trying to figure out if there's a possible way to block, and there was no way. He was looking for removal or he was looking for damage to kill me with first, but I was at just enough life that really... I don't think there was a single card he could play that was going to kill me, and because he was out of cards entirely, he just ran out of options, ran out of gas, and wow, that's a pretty explosive start for the Spiders deck. Didn't come down with the Elise early, but you can see the power of just flooding the board and getting so many Spiders that your opponent can't deal with it, and then you play the Anthem effect. So, off to a good start. Let's hope Game 2 goes in the same manner. Here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen, and would you look at that? It is Sivir LeBlanc Reputation. I'm the one bringing it back to them this time around. We'll see if I can do as well into this deck as it did into me the last time around. This hand is not great, unfortunately, especially if he can come down with something very aggressive, but we do have this Shrieking Spinner. We do have a Crawling Sensation and the House Spider, so it's not a bad opening for me, and he's got Ancient Preparations he's running in this deck. So I would expect more of a controlling bent to what this deck wants to do. Banking the 1 spell mana here is also going to be really important, as if he doesn't have anything to block with, the Elise will be able to get in, summon the Spider. I have the option of going for a Crawling Sensation on the next turn. I have a Precious Pet here as well, but I will come out with Elise. If he kills Elise, I'll just Crawling Sensation. I'll at least get 2 Spiders out of it, but I don't think he's got anything that does 2 damage for 2 mana in those colors. Okay, yeah, he's got nothing, so we'll go in with the Elise. We'll summon out another Spiderling here. So this at least puts me at 1 Spider. Elise is a Spider herself as well, so that means she benefits from any of the... That's unfortunate. So Elise is dead here. She's guaranteed going to die because that Glory Seeker is going to be coming for her, and there's not a lot I can do. I do have a decent hand for the backswing here, but he's going to come down with LeBlanc. Again, there's not a lot I can do to stop that, so I think what we'll do is play out the House Spider, get another Spider, force him to deal with the Elise, because the Elise is going to flip otherwise. Oh, you know what? That was a misplay. I knew Elise was going to die. I should have saved enough mana for Black Spear so I could kill the LeBlanc on the backswing, and that's entirely on me. So we're actually going to get pretty punished here. I could have played this much better, and if I lose off the back of this, well, you guys all have a very obvious place to point at for how I threw the game. But we're going to at least Crawling Sensation, get a bunch of more Spiders, and the biggest thing here is I am sitting on the Shrieking Spinner, so I can come down to Shrieking Spinner and have a full board of Spiders swinging in that will all get the pump, as long as he doesn't have something like a Culling Strike. We've hit our next Precious Pet as well. So here we go, Shrieking Spinner. Do you have an answer here, bud? He's got 4 mana, so he's got plenty of things that will stop Shrieking Spinner from doing what it wants to do. Not least of which is that he could start removing other Spiders, and then Spinner's a little sad. He's got House Spider, which is a pretty good card here because he will be able to block out fairly decently. We'll go in, though. We'll pump it all up, and I'll just start aggressively trading out because I think at this point Spiders will replenish itself a little bit better than what the Reputation deck will be doing. Yeah, so he doesn't really want to block. He is going to block with the Automaton, but he can't block with Elise at all, or with LeBlanc at all, because she just dies to anything. So yeah, so he's going to kill off 3 of my Spiders, but I'm getting in for 8 damage here, which is not too bad. He is going to get the LeBlanc flip, which is unfortunate, but she still dies to Black Spear. So on the next turn, assuming she's going to go in because he's going to want to try and get the mirror images, I will have the option of just Black Spearing here, and he's down to 9 life, so he's in a pretty risky situation. So I don't feel too bad about this. I want to check, can I see Reputation? I cannot see Reputation on the LeBlanc, so I don't know how close he is to Reputation on his own. Sivir's coming down, which is a bit difficult. We will have at least the pet. I think what I'm going to do is just block one of them. Because I just need a unit to die here, of course, right? Like, I don't really care. I just need something to die so I can go with a Black Spear afterwards. The problem is this Sivir I can't actually do anything about. So here's the Black Spear. He doesn't have mana for Rite of Negation, so LeBlanc should be dead. Because even if he gives her +0/+1, okay, yeah. Yeah, so she's going to go down. And we can come in with another Precious Pet. And we're just going to go to combat on the next turn. Because at this point, I can't Black Spear the Sivir. I do have a Brood Awakening, so that'll be a good way to refill the board afterwards. But this is, I think, the best play. He can only block one thing, so assuming he blocks, he's just going to take it. He does not have enough blocks. We managed to outrush him. He definitely played that deck better than I did. I even made a mistake here, but either way, Spiders turns out is the antidote to reputation. Who knew? So far, 2 for 2. Let's keep it going. And here we go, back at it again against Suzumiya Haruhi, 1747, sorry, one of those numbers, playing in a Callista deck. And there's the bad man, but I don't want to see him in an opening hand. I kind of want to just mulligan away all of this in the hopes that I get my early game stuff. Okay, the bad man came back. He wasn't very happy about being mulliganed, but Darius, I don't need you right now. And so this is likely just going to be the kill my own units deck. It's surprising he's not playing Lucian. That's usually the other card you want to be running in that deck, the other champion card, because of how well he synergizes with Callista. But I guess he either doesn't have the Lucians or decided not to run it. He may be operating on some kind of jank strategy. I feel like if you ever see someone playing a single champion, it's probably something jank. So he's got the Oblivious Islander. That's always, like, always a jank card. He may be going for the Cytherea Lady of Cloud strategy and just wants to get her cost lower. He doesn't care if she's weak or not. Okay, so we've got the Elise. I would be surprised if he had anything to remove her with. He doesn't actually have... Oh, that's actually pretty good. Okay, so he's going to play it on Cursed Keeper. So Cursed Keeper's guaranteed to die this round and get him the 4-3. He does have a block at least for the Spiderling. And he knows better than to take it because I can play the Crawling Sensation on the backside. So he's just going to take the damage. He's got a Last Wind as well, so he's going to kill it. That's not a bad play. So he's got a significantly bigger board than I do at this point. And the biggest problem is none of my spiders are actually killing those units off. Obviously, I do have the Crawling Sensation, so I don't feel like this is too bad of a block here. Actually, why would I block there? We want to stop as much damage as possible. And this is okay because I've got the Crawling Sensation, and then I can also come out with the Frenzied Skitterer. Well, actually, I probably won't want to play the Frenzied Skitterer on that, but either way, we can do this. Get a couple spiders. Actually, the biggest thing here is I can Vile Feast. I'm not getting a lot of value off of this Vile Feast, but we are getting to 3 spiders, which will give us the Elise flip. He knows it as well, so he may go for the... Oh, he doesn't have it. Okay. So heal a little bit, get the 3 spiders. Elise is going to flip, and she will. Definitely made back in the day before they had these really elaborate flip animations, but either way, we've got the Elise. We actually top-decked into another Elise, and here comes Skitterer. He's only got 1 block now because of everything having Fearsome, and we can grab it with a smaller spider and prevent him from doing anything about it. So here we go. You're going to be forced to block here. I don't have to block this because it's too weak to actually do it because everything is Fearsome. He's got 7 mana, so there's a lot he could do here. Withering Wail. Yep, that'll do it, and I'm 1 mana off of being able to drop the Fresh Offerings. He's also healing 3. That makes it a pretty good play overall. The biggest thing, though, is I do have this Elise's Crawling Sensation to refill the board, so I don't feel too bad about it overall. This also puts the Spider Queen Elise back in the deck, of course, so I'm not too concerned. I also like how it is Spider Queen Elise, specifically, not just Elise, but flipped. We've got another Crawling Sensation. He's absolutely mad because he just... he keeps killing things and they keep just not dying. So we will block out like this, I believe. Again, I don't really care about the lives of my Spiderlings. I'll get them back. I know Elise is a little concerned about it or whatever, but here we go, Crawling Sensation. I'm just going to get more spiders. And if he kills one more thing this turn as well, I do have the option of going for the Vicious Offering and actually getting Vile Maul, which would be kind of funny. I don't think I need it, but hey, I'll take it if you want to give it to me. He's got Butcher. Okay, that's a pretty good play there because he's just going to replace his guy. I could play Black Spear, remove something, but he's on 7 mana, and I just feel like... Okay, yes. That's probably... The problem is I can't actually get rid of it. And that's going to heal him for... That is a bit of a problem. I know he's out of mana, though, so I am going to Black Spear here. What I can do on the next turn is bring up a Darius and use my spiders as challengers to force him to block earlier in the combat, and then potentially kill him with a Darius flip. We have another Skitterer as well that would prevent him from blocking with the Last Wind, but it also gives him an opportunity to play something else here. He doesn't have Ruination mana. He could have mana for Withering Wail, so we're going to bring out the Darius. I think this is probably the better play. See what he's got. He could go for a Vengeance, but that at least... Okay, he has the Callista. That's fine. So what I'm going to do here... Okay, we have to structure this pretty smartly. So grab here, here, and here. And then punch in with the Elise before the Darius, because this is going to heal 4, but then I'm going to deal 4. I'm not going to quite get to the Darius flip, unfortunately, but we're going to remove the Callista at least. He's going to get some health back, which is pretty sad for me, but at least Darius is going to flip. So that is a big deal. It does mean that he knows he's on a clock, because he has to find a way to either remove the Darius or to heal up some more. Islander to reduce the cost of something in hand. Is this another... It's not, actually. So I'm still thinking this is the Lady of Clouds deck. I've got the Arachnoid Sentry as well, so I do have the option of stunning the Matron into Cytherea. Yep, there it is. That is exactly the combo. It's really, really sad for me because I think I'm just dead no matter what happens. I'm going to come down with the Spider. I'm going to at least stun the lifesteal on the off chance I live this. The biggest problem is because everything he controls has Challenger. I think I live this no matter what happens, though. Obviously, 2 of his units are ephemeral, so they're going to be dead on this turn. I have a block here. I'm going to take 6. That's okay, and hilariously, I'll be able to Vile Maw afterwards. The question is, that is permanent as well. So, unfortunately, he is going to keep his Radiant Guardian as big as she is. So even though I'm not dying here, I don't think I'm going to live. Either way, fresh offerings, we're going to play it. Yay, Vile Maw, he's here. Assuming my opponent lets me resolve it. I don't think he's got anything that can stop it, though. Okay, yeah, so we do have Vile Maw coming out. And unless I top deck my second Arachnoid Sentry, I think this game's over. So, top deck, come on. Come on, baby, come on. That's a useless card. That's not going to do me any good here. So we are at least going to play out the Skitterer. We've got a little bit more damage. What has he got? Stalking Shadows to refill. I'm surprised I lived that the Lady of Cytherea play. I don't think I'm going to live the long run is the problem, but we're at least alive for the moment. Matron for another one. Matron for another one. I can't win this. I actually can't win this anymore. He's got too much. I mean, he's going to heal for 14 every time the Radiant Guardian attacks. I can't even race him anymore. That was the one thing I was playing for, is being able to race, and potentially I can get through enough damage before I die to his pumped up unit. But with him healing 14, I don't have any unconditional removal. I'm not main decking Vengeance, so I don't actually have anything I can do. I'm gonna play Vile Feast to get me a Spider? And then I'm probably gonna concede because I can't win. The 20 health on top of that is really, really tough to deal with. Especially with Tough. Like, the more health you have, the more valuable Tough becomes, because you actually need, like, so much damage to plink through, and plinking away a little at a time doesn't matter. He's thinking about this way too hard for someone who's won the game here. Okay, he's gonna let that resolve. I think he's like, what do you have, bud? But the answer is nothing. The answer is, when you pull off, I can live one Cytherea Lady of Clouds. I can't live 2. That's too much. So, unfortunate, but hey, I guess it is what it is. We got the Elise flip, we got Vile Maw out, so hey, I'm kind of happy with how that played out. And I think that's actually going to be it for me today, guys, as well. I know that was only 3 games, and normally I play more when it's a more aggressive deck, but I have a little bit limited time to record today, so unfortunately that is going to be all I have the time for today. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys liked seeing the Spider deck in action. Like I said, it's a ton of fun for me to play. It's another one of those decks that you can kind of come out with super fast. There's a little bit more thought process than the Treferian aggro deck, trying to figure out how you can get the most out of your Anthem effects and get the most out of your kill effects, but generally speaking, it's still a super fun deck to play. So either way, let me know what you guys thought of the games today. Go ahead and let me know what you thought of the deck down in the comment section below. If there are any ways to improve it, let me know all of that. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.